Hey everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and today we're going to do a Barrett Jackson video. We're going to do a little wrap up from the auction down there. We did a Mecum video a couple weeks ago, and it was our best video ever. Everybody really loved it and liked hearing what we had to say about this. So just to kind of do a short synopsis of what we're going to do is we're just going to go through some of the cars at Barrett. We're going to tell you kind of what we thought where the market went, do some individual cars and kind of go some deep dives into them, why we thought they went high, why we think they went low, just that kind of thing. And I just want to do a little background on kind of Mecum versus Barrett, and then we'll do a bunch of cars, and at the end I'll kind of give you what I think about where the market is right now. So just kind of want to start with kind of an overall. So Mecum versus Barrett. So, Barrett was the king for a long time. I mean, Mecum Auctions was around, but they were kind of Midwest. They were kind of doing their own thing. Barrett had the big flashy Scottsdale, and, they did a few other auctions, Vegas and the other places. And, they were the first. They really broke ground. They were king there for a long time, and they did the no reserve thing, and they had so much power in the marketplace, and people knew they could get good money there, so people still brought their cars there. And Mecum kind of took advantage of that loophole. They took reserves. Barrett Jackson did not, except for the super high end stuff, and they really took advantage of it. They went down to Kissimmee down in Florida, and they kind of took some of the wind out of Barrett Jackson sales. When prices dipped and people got burned on no reserve cars at Barrett, people tended to go to Mecum. And then a couple years ago, Mecum, they obviously had their Florida auction, but then they did their Glendale auction. It's at the Phoenix Cardinals stadium down there, and it's done really well. They took a bunch of sales away from Barrett. I mean, they both still set records this year. Barrett set a record, Mecum set a record this year. They're both doing very, very well. But, as far as muscle cars are concerned, obviously we're specifically Mopars here. That's we run a Mopar restoration shop here, so that's what we're concentrating on. That's what we're going to really be focusing on and talking about today. We're going to do a couple other follow-up videos. There are some really bad cars that we wanted to highlight. We're not going to do that in this video. We're going to do some individual videos. We'll post a couple next weekend about some cars that we really wanted to highlight. But for today, just kind of wanted to do kind of a general where the market is. Barrett was number one for a while. I mean, in my opinion, I think Mecum's kind of passed him now. The quality of cars at Mecum was so much higher than Barrett this year. There was the Frank Teagues collection, and there were some good Mopars there at Barrett, but most of the rest of them, the quality just wasn't there. All the good cars went to Mecum this year. They just did really well. And, Barrett Jackson definitely has its own culture. Been down there a bunch of times. It's very alcohol fueled. It's a big party. It's I like to call it the bro culture. 4x4s, resto mods, big wheels, lifts. It's like that's not really something I'm a huge fan of. But that's the market down there. It's like people are buying these $100,000 new trucks now and putting these giant wheels on them, and that's what's popular, and that's what really got money down at Barrett Jackson this year. The stock Mopars really didn't. But again, there weren't that many good cars. But I said we'll kind of go through those. There's a couple different ones we want to highlight. I just also want to give out a shout out to Steve Magnane, Steve Mags. Obviously, he's been in recovery. I'm sure most of you heard that. He had a brain issue and he's in recovery, so he couldn't make it for Barrett this year. But just something else to keep in mind when you're watching the auctions. Keep in mind those announcers, they work for the auctions. They don't work for you. So, when you watch a video like this, I'm willing to go deep dive into this stuff and tell you what's wrong with these vehicles. Whereas those announcers can't, because they're working for Barrett. So they have to be very positive. And they may point out like one bad thing on the car, but there's a lot of things when I look at a car that I look at red flags, and I'll point them out to you. And it's stuff that once you see it, you really can't unsee it. So, all right, we'll start out with a 68 Hemi GTX. All right, our first car here is a 1968 Hemi Plymouth GTX. I just want to say real quick, I want to thank my brother for getting video of this. He was down there at Barrett and was able to give us some cool information about these cars. You got this, that's in the mirror there. This is a 1968 Hemi GTX. It's a non-numbers matching 4-speed car. One thing I'd like to really point out here is if you look at the rear window there, it actually has an air temp sticker on the rear window. What that means is this was an AC car, and AC cars were not available with a Hemi, which is kind of interesting on this one. It's just, you know, the window could have been replaced, but it is a bit of a red flag on this car. It's just like, you know, there's something else kind of wrong with this too. And it went really cheap. Like this thing stayed at 62,000 for a very long time and only ended up at 77. That's pretty cheap. You know, these were in the 75 to 100 range for a while, and there's been a few cars lately that have gotten up to, you know, 130, 140,000. So this one, you know, doesn't look that nice. And it's really interesting because Barrett really like worked this car hard. Like it was up on the block for 2.5 minutes. Most cars have been up for like 1.5 minutes. You know, that Mecum, you know, they have reserves. They have a grinder up there working you on. Like Barrett, it's no reserves. They don't really worry about it. So they don't have to put it up that high. But yeah, so I mean, this one went pretty cheap, but it sounds like there were some reasons for it. You know, there's definitely some, you know, little issues that are unexplained on this car. So next car here is a 1968 Dodge Charger. This one's kind of a mismatch of a bunch of different stuff. The biggest thing that bothers me is see the side marker on the back by the bumblebee stripe? Right back there. See how that's not centered on the stripe? I think they put the stripe on backwards. If the side marker's not in the right spot, I don't know, it's not right. It's also a 69 stripe, which is totally different for a 68. You can see how the grille there is all warped. Like this car just has a bunch of issues. It's got 70 rally wheels, which I don't know, are fine, but I really prefer those on a 70 and up. They don't really look right on a 68 to me. The 68 design is one of my favorite years. It's really, really nice. But like, I don't know. And this car's also triple green, you know, green exterior, green interior, green top. It's a 3-3 barrel car. You know, it's not the best Charger in the world. It's got a bunch of stuff going on for it. And again, I know I keep on mentioning this, but you know, Barrett doesn't open the hood, which is kind of annoying. You can't really see it. But I mean, this car, we sold the 69 last year Charger for about what this sold. And I would have thought this would have gotten more money at Barrett Jackson. Apparently that guy there has been bidding on a bunch of cars. But I don't know. You know, you think last year that probably would have been more like a $65,000, $70,000 car, even with the issues it had. But the Charger market's definitely slowing down a bit. Also interesting. I mean, again, this is on TV, so it's not in real time, but they're supposed to be on the block for about 2 minutes. This one was about less than 1.5 minutes. So it's kind of interesting when they slow gavel stuff sometimes. So here's another Charger. This is a V Code 446 pack, originally Hemi orange. That color doesn't look quite right to me, but it can kind of change on the camera and in the lights. It's no grill blackout, no cowl blackout. That is one of my biggest pet peeves on these cars, and just shows you you know, it's not a super high-end restoration. It says a rotisserie restoration, doesn't say numbers anywhere. It's got, you know, chrome valve covers, so it's not a super stock restoration, but the car looks pretty good overall. Is it missing wheelet moldings? I think it's missing wheelet moldings. The 70 Charger, so it has the door scoops, which is, I really like those on a 70 Charger. My first Mopar was a 70 Charger, so I've always had a thing for 70 Chargers. Yeah, it doesn't have wheelet moldings, which it should. At least the stripes centered on the side markers. At least they got that right. But it's, you know, it's a decent car, not a great car. You know, 446 pack. You could get the those call-outs on the hood. I doubt this had it. Not many of them did. It was a late in the year thing. I believe this one had a fender tag. It does not say it was numbers matching or not, so I'm assuming no. But, you know, for a 6-pack Charger, this just seems really cheap. Chargers were kind of soft. Looks like all the taillights work, which is good. A lot of times on a Charger, you look at them, most of those bulbs don't work. There's like there's 6 bulbs in the back there. A lot of times they don't work. But it looks like just kind of a decent driver type car. You know, obviously the cowl blackout is a huge thing for me. It just shows you the level of detail in the car and the lack of level of detail in the car. You know, hood pins are neat. It looks like it was up. This one was up for about 1.5 minutes, which seems to be about what Barrett's doing. Mecum was closer to 2 minutes on a lot of stuff, but Barrett's doing about 1.5 minutes. But yeah, looks like a decent car. We have some other footage of this car too. So next car here is a 1971 Plymouth GTX. I know we've been kind of, you know, showing you some of the examples of the bad cars going through Barrett. And I want to show you an example of a pretty good car. This one looks really nice. Looks like it's originally from Oregon. Love the personalized plate there. It's numbers matching, air grabber, has console cassette, automatic, numbers matching. It's a good color in violet. Like, you just look at this car and like all the little details are right. You know, there's like a lot of red flags with these. This is a good one. You can see the red behind the wheels. I don't know if you caught that there. on the front and back. So it's a drum brake car. But if you had styled wheels, either rally wheels or the Magnum 500s, they painted the drums red behind it. And they painted those red because it looked better behind the wheels. So, you know, commercial cut to this. I'm not sure how long it was on the stage, but, you know, 56,000 on this is, I think that's a decent deal for that car. You know, it's okay. It's not a steal. It's not super expensive. I think it's a pretty fair deal for a pretty nice car. All right, next car up is a 1967 Hemi GTX 4-speed, and this is an example of a celebrity car. You know, personally, I'm not really into that. Like, I think I've said this before, but you know, Jay Leno said, you know, when you buy a celebrity car, it's their car, not your car. But this one was owned by Bill Goldberg, and no matter what you say, like, it does affect the value. You know, if Richard Petty signed it, like, people think it's worth more. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know why you'd want somebody signing your car, but I'm probably in the minority on that. You know, under engine bay looks okay, not great. It's professionally restored. Says its numbers matching, which of course there aren't any numbers on a 67 block, so there's no way to prove that. But it's probably the original engine. You know, you can date code everything and tell if it's original or not. I believe Bill had this one professionally restored. It's part of the Frank Teague's collection, which is, there's actually most of the nicer Mopars at Barrett Jackson were in that. There were not a lot of nice Mopars at Barrett Jackson this year, but most of the nice ones were in there. We got a couple more, at least one more coming up from that collection. But looks like a decent car. You know, a Hemi GTX, you know, they should be, you know, a nice 4-speed car, you know, under 6 digits, you know, probably in the, you know, 75 to 80 range. They're working this one pretty hard. You know, when they bring a big collection of cars, the auctioneers will definitely work the car harder. What I mean work is just, you know, more time on stage. So right now we're a minute and a half, and it's still going. You know, the auctioneer kind of plays it by ear. I believe the contract, they're guaranteed a minute and a half. I can't remember exactly what it says, but, you know, the contract doesn't really mean anything because, you know, these auction companies have a lot more money than you do to sue you. So if that happens, you know, you're not going to win, basically. So, but yeah, it's going pretty good. It's up to 92. I mean, that's pretty good money for this. I think the Bill Goldberg collection probably gets a little more money. Sold for 95. So with the juice, that's over $100,000, which is, you know, a lot for a 67 Hemi 4-speed GTX. But I'm pretty sure the celebrity connection here kind of brings it over the top. This car is a 1970 Dodge Charger RT. It's a 446 pack car, 4-speed. We actually have one of these in our shop right now we're working on, so I'm pretty familiar with these. It says its numbers matching. One that's kind of interesting on this is they really highlight this is there's a 55-page Dave Wise report on this, stating how original and correct it is. And one thing is it says it's the cleanest sheet metal he's ever seen, but I don't know, like, there's a lot of little details wrong with this. Like, obviously the purple shaker, let's say it is a roll plumb crazy car. The screws are wrong on the fender tag. There's no cowl blackout. Again, as I keep on harping, that's just a real red flag to me. It has 71 center caps. I don't know. This car just doesn't scream out to me that it's super correct. You know, obviously it's still a 446 pack 4-speed. That's a valuable car. Shaker was added, on a Challenger. For those that don't know, shaker hood is super, super rare on a Challenger. First of all, it wasn't available for half the year. It got discontinued a couple months in, and then it got reissued in late spring. So it's really rare. And then every Hemi Cuda got a shaker, and on Challenger it was always optional no matter what, even on a Hemi car. So the shaker was added on this. It's not an original shaker car. What's interesting is no stripes. They look pretty plain without the stripes, don't they? And again, I don't have a picture of the fender tag, so I can't tell you exactly how it was optioned originally. But yeah, there's a lot of little details missing on this car. You know, 6-pack cars are kind of all over the place. You know, depends on numbers matching, depends on a lot of that kind of stuff. See the blue through the grill? That just looks terrible. I mean, I think 150 is probably kind of all the money on this one. And it's, you know, 165 with the juice. Looks like a decent car, but missing a lot of little details. Next car we have here is a 1970 Plymouth Superbird. This one's in B5 blue. It is a U-Code 440 car. It's been upgraded to a 6-pack, or 6-barrel on a Plymouth, I guess. This one looks like it's a pretty nice car. It's been, you know, validated by Dave Wise. You know, wing cars were super duper hot. They kind of went down a little bit at Mecum, but again, kind of what happens is, you know, when prices go up so fast on cars like this, I mean, skies was the limit on these. I mean, these were just getting stupid money last year. And, you know, when everything goes up, like, worse cars come out of the woodwork. So I think that was really the case at Mecum, that a lot of worse cars came out of the woodwork. And there's another car we're going to go by here in a little bit that I'll show you. But this one's getting pretty strong money. I mean, this is a U-code car. It's an automatic. I mean, it is numbers matching, but, you know, it's got a lot going for it. It's a pretty nice restoration. It's a pretty nice car. But this is pretty strong money for a 4-barrel car. You know, the 6-barrel upgrade, you know, that's not something personally I would do, but, you know, I guess whoever that bidder is seems to like it. You know, these were obviously built for NASCAR, bring Petty back. And what's kind of interesting is the uprights actually did more than the stabilizer bar for these. It's always said, Richard Petty said that at like Daytona, you basically couldn't spin one of these out. Like no matter how fast you went into a corner, the uprights would get the rear end back to where it would be. So the rear ends just didn't slide on these at all. Man, it's still going. It's getting pretty good money. You know, I've always liked Superbirds. Always wanted one. I tried to get one last summer, and fortunately, the deal didn't quite work out. I got really close to buying one. And fortunately, I think they're probably priced out of my price range now. But yeah, 260s, good money for this thing, especially for a 4-barrel car. You know, there's a couple of Hemi cars available out there right now. There's several at Barrett Jackson too. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really good money, you know, 260 plus the juice. So we're up near 280 for a 4-barrel car. I think that's pretty good money. And honestly, a little bit high, but it just shows you that nice cars bring good money. All right, so now we're going to do the top Mopar of the show. This is another one, the Frank Teague collection. It is a 1971 Plymouth Hemicuda. I believe the billboard was added to this one. I do not have a picture of the fender tag, but they did not list it in the description. But this is, you know, blue chip muscle car. Rocket did one of these a few years ago. This one's numbers matching. It's plumb crazy. It's automatic, not a 4-speed. That holds it back a little bit. But I know a few of these that have sold in the last couple of years in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. And this one kind of ends up, not to bury the lead, but kind of ends up in the middle there. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good car. This is a blue chip top flight muscle car here. Looks like an excellent restoration, although the side marker bezel is supposed to be white there. And it looks like it's plumb crazy. I have seen some leave the factory without that, but that's not technically correct. But it does look like a nice car. Has the dark center caps for 71, has the polyglass tires. It's got a lot going for it. You know, Hemi automatic. And I believe this ends up being the top Mopar of the show. It's still got a little ways to go here. In fact, Craig Jackson was actually bidding on it, which I'm not sure about the guy running the auction bidding on a car, but I guess he's got plenty of money to bring it home. Yeah, I mean, it's, again, really nice car. You know, definitely a blue chip muscle car here. The only thing better is going to be a convertible. And again, like, I know people are like, oh, it's $500,000 for Mopar, I'll never spend that. But, you know, these top flight cars set prices for the other cars. Like, when these go for $500,000, it makes a 318 Barracuda sell for more money because, you know, it's the basis of this car. Obviously, it's not the same thing. You know, it's not a Hemi car, but it's got a lot going for it. You know, as you know, every Hemi Cuda has a shaker hood. The painted grille looks really nice on these. Some were argent. I really like the painted grille. Also has fog lamps. I'm not sure if those were added or not. Those were optional on a 71. They were not standard. They were standard on a 70. Dual mirrors, white interior, and they just hit $500,000. It's going pretty good. And then remember, there's 10% above that as well. This one's been on the stage for a while too. Like, when you get $500,000, it stays on the stage for a little bit longer. That's how it works. But it just kind of seems like the quality of Mopars of this auction was not great. But the exception is the Frank Teague's collection. I've seen a few of the cars go through here on the collection, and most of them have looked pretty good. This one's been on the block for 2.5 minutes, which is, I think, the longest I've seen so far of any of these cars that we've done. It's doing really, really well. There's a couple guys who really want this thing, and they're really competing for it. Going to 245, it's the top seller of the show as of this point. I think this was a Saturday car. Another thing I want to talk about too is, like, the day these go has a huge effect. You know, Saturday nights, the showcase. Only the nicest cars go Saturday night. You also have to pay for that rate. You pay more for a Saturday slot than a Wednesday slot, and that makes a difference too. All right, now we're going to show another Superbird. This one is a Hemi 4-speed car, but is not really what you see. So first of all, it was a bench seat column auto converted to a 4-speed, which is kind of a killer in collector circles. It's also white, which is the worst Superbird color. I mean, there's all sorts of cool colors available for Superbirds. There's, limelight, there's B5 blues even better than this. There's a lot of cool colors you get on a Superbird, and white is not one of them. People like cars original. The nose doesn't fit very well. The seal doesn't fit. Superbirds, I mean, just went up and up and up and up and up, and it just wasn't really sustainable. This car's been around the auction circuit a little bit. I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I was doing some research on this, using some of our insider knowledge. I believe this car sold for $500,000 at the Mecum Indy sale. I believe it's the same car. It was a white Hemi Superbird. And this car's way under the money. I mean, like, way. Like, a 440 U-Code car just got 286. This is at 210. This is a Hemi 4-speed car. Buddy of mine locally is trying to sell his 4-speed Hemi Bird that he's had forever. I mean, that's over $500,000 for that car. I mean, it hasn't sold yet, but so yeah, this is really cheap for that car, but like, it has some issues. It wasn't a very good restoration. The latch tray was wrong. The nose seal was wrong. Like, but dude, I mean, I think the guy lost like 6 figures on that car, so not great. But another example of kind of how Mopars and wing cars were a little weak at Barrett Jackson this year. All right, time to kind of sum all this up. So hope you enjoyed watching the video. Hope you liked our commentary on the cars. If you got anything to add, please let us know. Just keep in mind with the commentary, we pretty much do that most of that just off the cuff. So we're going to make some mistakes, but you can go ahead and call me out in the comments for it. But we definitely make some mistakes on this stuff. But Barrett didn't really change my mind from Mecum that much. I mean, like, the trends kind of stayed the same. The market's pretty flat right now. Wing cars definitely got pretty overheated there for a while. They've definitely taken a step back, but it was time to take a step back. They'd gone up 200-300% in 3 years, and that's just not sustainable. But it is kind of weird. It's like, the good cars versus the bad cars. Like, bidders know. There was the U-Code 440 Magnum Superbird got more than a Hemi car, and that shouldn't be the case unless that Hemi car is a really bad car and that U-Code car is a really good car. But like, apples to apples, that shouldn't be the case. A Hemi Superbird should be $500,000. One got $1 million last year. Again, it was a good car and the market was pretty heated, but it's just kind of interesting how that's all kind of shaken out right now. And I know everybody's probably saying like, oh, it's they're auction cars, who cares? Well, this stuff sets the market for the year. Whatever prices are, it definitely sets the market for the year. That's kind of how it works. So but yeah, I mean, I think again, wing cars are down, Chargers kind of seem to be about the same, kind of treading water a little bit. Good cars get good money, bad cars don't get good money, and that's in a proper working market. That's how it works. It's supply demand, it's capitalism. So I mean, the real big takeaway for me from Barrett is like, they just didn't get very good cars, and there could be a lot of reasons for that, but like, I mean, again, this is just my opinion here, but I think it's the no reserve thing. Mecum has reserve and people feel comfortable about that. Mecum has set records every year. They sold 4,000 plus cars this year. Barrett set a record too, but they definitely had more. The 4x4s were hotter. The resto mods have been really hot. There was 392 swapped Cudas and Chargers that were getting more than 6-pack cars. That's the market right now. And it's a fad. I mean, like, in 10 years when all those electronics don't work on those resto mods, they're not going to be worth nearly what they're worth now. The original cars will hold their value and the resto mods won't. But that's kind of just where the market is right now. There just weren't that many quality cars at Barrett this year. The Frank T collection had the Hemi Cuda that went for, $500,000. It had some, some other good cars in there too. But for the most part, the Mopars there weren't nice, or they were red flags. 68 Hemi GTX. Why does it have an air temp sticker in the window? Did they just replace the window with something else? Probably. But did that start out as an AC car? They didn't build a Hemi with an AC car. So it's like, that's definitely a red flag for that vehicle that takes more investigation. No cowl blackout. Half the cars we showed here didn't have a cowl blackout. That shows you it was restored by a guy who doesn't know Mopars that much. And if you're missing that little detail, what else do you miss? That's the kind of stuff we look for on these cars. It's like, it could be a fantastic restoration. They just forgot to do the cowl blackout. But, for the most part, that's a sign that the car isn't restored very well. So yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed this video. We're going to do a couple follow-ups. There was a couple 4x4 rigs. One was horrible that we're going to follow up on. There's another car we're going to follow up on that Barrett, it was missing the VIN basically. So we're going to do a deep dive in both that. But we're going to wait till next weekend on that. Just want to thank everybody for watching. I really enjoy doing these videos. This is something that we're very good at, and I really enjoy doing. I love dissecting cars and seeing what stuff's selling for. So if you enjoy it, please leave a comment and like the video. And if you like these videos, subscribe to our channel. There's going to be many more down the line. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you soon.